Hello, and welcome.
To another episode with Julian of the Lume Plotters.
Yes, special guest appearance.
Thank you very much for having me. Very happy to be here.
Again.
Yeah.
This is what
Happy
now,
to be
an
reinvited.
How many times now?
I think it's only my second time, so I'm
No,
still a
it's
novice.
definitely more than two.
Must be the third.
It's
must
three
be.
at least.
Yeah.
Remember, but I've heard my name mentioned on a few occasions.
Oh.
So maybe I've been mentioned more than twice.
Yeah, maybe. But anywho, so we have Julian on. I promised you guys that we would talk about diving at some point in time, but Julian's kind of the expert diver. So I'm just a novice, so I can't talk about it enough. So Julian will fill in. But before we get started, apparently Julian and Ralph are wearing the exact same shirt.
No,
So,
not the same
look at
shirt,
this.
but from the same brand. Yes.
Well, it's the same shirt, just same logo, sure.
Mhm.
And so we were just chatting about barber jackets and barber in general. And apparently we have a barber boutique now in Dubai Hills Mall, wherever it is, which of course I don't know because I don't live in Dubai, but we were going on about about barber. And I was saying that, for where we live in the UAE, me having 4 barber jackets is a bit much, right? But the thing is, they have this lifetime, repairs and everything. And Julian was just telling a story about how Queen Elizabeth sent her barber jacket in for repairs. And apparently they said it was, too messed up. So they sent her a new jacket. And then she got pissed because she said, no, I want my jacket and I want it repaired. And that got me thinking, imagine, would you be upset or not if you sent a watch in for service and they said, nah, we're just going to give you a new one? Would you be pissed or would you be happy?
I would be upset if it was the case. I want the old case because I like the wear and tear showing.
Ditto.
I'm not a movement guy, so I don't care if there's something wrong with the movement and they just want to drop in a brand new movement, seal it up in my old case. I'd be okay with that.
This is what Tudor does. Tudor does this,
Yes,
right?
see,
So
they
they
have-
literally don't service movements. They just drop and replace, and then
They
send
do
the old
service the
movements.
movements. They do service the movements. If you insist on that, you can mention that, and they will service it. It takes a bit longer. Otherwise, they'll take it out, service it, and give it to somebody else who gets a service movement. So basically,
So
refurbished the
essentially,
movement, and you get a refurbished movement in your watch. But they're only doing this in specific locations. In most locations, they actually do a normal movement service. It has been blown a bit out of proportion where people saying
No,
okay,
but here in UAE specifically, they said it's movement replacement only for Tudor watches.
yeah, that
At
maybe
least
is
in
the-
Elaine, in the Rolex service boutique that I went to in Elaine. I talked to the guy in great detail about how things are going, and he said specifically for Tudor, it's drop-in replacements, nothing else for
Yep.
all of them. And then for Rolex, they're only allowed to service essentially everything, but they cannot service Daytonas, they cannot service the Sky Dwellers, and they cannot service the what is that? Yachtmaster 2, right? So the movements on those are apparently too complicated, so they want those sent back somewhere else. But for the rest, they service. So Rolex does not do any drop-in replacements, apparently.
I guess it also depends if you've got an open case back or not. I don't know if you've noticed, Ralph, you have the JLC Master Control open case back.
Mhm.
There's actually 2 versions of the rotor in that watch. The one is sort of just a metal one with text on it saying the 1,000 hours, etc., etc. And the other one is a gold rotor with just the J and the L on it. So I guess it depends. If they wanted to replace my J and L gold one with just a metal one with the text, that would be a problem. Otherwise,
I'm
I don't
assuming
really
it's
care.
like for like, right? So they're not going to do that.
Yeah, so mine is full gold, right?
I love that. That's my favorite
Yes.
version of it.
Yeah, mine is the full gold, and it has no, I don't know if it has the writing on it, but it does have the 1,000-hour power, whatever testing stuff on
Testing,
the
yeah.
case. Yeah.
But also, I think I'm going to throw one more wrench in the works. It depends on how long you've had the watch. So, for
Yes, of
instance, my Zenith that went into service, that's now been flown to Switzerland, just give me another one. I don't care. I want my watch back, right? Because I've had the watch for what? 4 months. And at that point, like, and once again, not to mention the fact that it's the bead blasted titanium, there's no wear. You cannot see wear. So it doesn't make any difference to me. It's a brand new looking watch. Give me a new one. I'm okay with that. And
So-
this, I guess Mahmoud had the same with his Patek, remember?
Mm.
He bought a new Patek and it immediately didn't work. Like, I don't remember what happened to it, but it didn't work. And then he waited, I don't know how many months for it to come in. Got it, was not working from the get-go. And then they gave him a brand new replacement for it instead, which I think at Patek prices, probably not a bad idea.
I wonder if it extends to the paperwork as well. Because if they do a case replacement and a movement replacement, the numbers aren't going to match up. And now you're getting into all sorts of murky waters with, not
exactly.
no
You need to
think
have
they
new
might
papers
have-
for it and all of this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they might have just swapped the papers. This happened to me once, back in the day. Speaking of dive watches, my first sub was a sub date that I bought from MOE, and I took it home, and I'm like looking at it. I'm like, this is just something doesn't look right on this dial, and everything was twisted in the case. So the dial itself was not aligned with the 12 o'clock. It was twisted a little bit to the like 11 o'clock side. So if you look at the coronet and everything, it was offset. The rehaut, everything was offset. And then the Cyclops was also offset because the date window was off. So everything was just a couple degrees off. And I took it back and I said, listen, I've had this for like 3 days. It was very simple. You took a ruler, you aligned it with the top of the Cyclops, right? Because it has a flat edge on the top, and you look at it and it's sitting like this. And I told them, no, like not for this amount of money. And back in the day, nobody cared, right? So they're like, oh, well, let me just grab another one out of the case and here you go. And they said, just give us the old, what's it called back? The old warranty card. And here's a new warranty card, new watch, boom, 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 done. So that's how Rolex used to be.
It's also how it should be, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you have to. These are immediate production defects that should not be even. When they say, "Oh, we send it in and service it," no. New watch, because this is not. I don't want to. I spent the money immediately, and I cannot have somebody repair it for another couple of weeks or months even, because I paid for it. I want to have it, right? So it's like, otherwise you just make the whole sale. You just revert the sale and saying,
I think it's part of the Rolex taking itself so seriously now that each piece is like a work of art and it cannot be altered and it cannot be this and that.
Yeah.
Before it used to be just a tool and, you exchange it for another tool and off you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you just went into the boutique, said, hey, I want to change the dial. And I said, sure. Which color you want,
No
right?
problem, yeah.
And you go, all
Exactly.
right. And you went on with it. Or you had a couple of dials, you could go in the boutique, they would change it for you. I mean, right, the service center. It was
Bezels as well.
absolutely normal to do
bracelets.
that. And now it's like, if you don't send the watch in for service with the exact same bracelet it came with, you're in trouble. And you think, why? I mean,
They sell you a new bracelet.
I had this discussion with a guy from Tudor when I had this movement issue with a Black Bay GMT back in the days, right? When it had these issues with a skipping date. And they said, do you need to put it on the leather strap because that's what it came with? I said, yeah, but I bought the original bracelet from you and put it in the boutique. So could we not just send it in on the bracelet because it is just on the bracelet? No, sir. So what about me sending just in the watch head? Because obviously there's no problem with everything else. No, sir. You think,
Even just the watch head, they wouldn't accept.
No.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, it's just like, what is going on? Anyhow, so these are the
Well,
things.
this is an issue. Speaking of, I am wearing my Tudor Black Bay 54 on the bracelet, which did not come on the bracelet. It came on the rubber strap. I no longer own the rubber strap, so that's something for me to look forward to if that comes.
Right.
I think Tudor might still be a little bit different, hopefully.
No, he said Tudor.
Oh, Tudor.
I said,
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you were talking about Rolex. Oh, okay.
No,
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 Tudor
they're both.
has
But,
Tudor. Same. So yeah, I mean,
Oh.
yeah.
Interesting.
but when was that? That was pre-Kinesi. No, not pre-Kinesi, but
no.
pre when they moved out of the Rolex building, right? Before the new building. And now they're separate enough to maybe they would accept it, especially if it's a Tudor bracelet. You know, all I did was swap with someone else, but then that means I have to go and swap back with someone else for. It was George, by the way, but so then I just got to go hit up George and say, George, can I borrow the strap for a couple months? And then
Modern, like you and I discussed before, that's why I just cannot be bothered dealing with any modern Rolex watch.
it sucks.
You know, I don't want to be dealing with that sort of thing. For me, it's not.
Yeah,
that
but it's
serious a
Tudor.
thing.
Tudor is different.
We're not talking about swapping organs, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but I'll go back to the ship of Theseus, right? When you're saying like, do you want to have a watch replaced? I have a very a good example of that because my first real luxury watch was a Breitling Super Ocean, right? And I sold it, and it was a quite limited version because it was only built for 2 years, Super Ocean Arrowhand, and I bought it back. I mean, not the exact same watch, but the same model, right? In even a slightly better condition, I guess. And so it's I feel it's my watch. It's not.
Your watch, you paid
I
for
don't
it.
have a problem with it.
It's your watch. You paid for it.
No, I mean, well, it's still my original first luxury watch. It's just not like a replacement for it. It feels like it's the same because it's just literally the same watch. So it's identical, right? I mean, obviously, but it's I didn't have any scratches that I would remember on the watch. So it's not that I think like, okay, this is memories tied to this watch is not tied to the new one. I don't have that issue with that. So. But when we had this discussion with Ship of Theseus, if you wear a watch for 50 years and you bring it to service, and over the 50 years, every single part of the watch is being replaced one at a time, right? And the watchmaker was naughty, which is like an extra twist on this whole thing. He kept every part of your watch whenever he replaced the thing. So basically, he put together a watch in his workshop that is only consisting out of your original watch parts. So basically, it's the entire watch is suddenly on this workbench, and you have still your own watch, and you're wearing it. So now there exist two of these watches. One is all the original parts, and one is the watch you wore for 50 years.
Which is the more original.
Yeah,
exactly. But that's a philosophical question of what are
very
you considering more original. And it's one of is the use, what it represents as a watch, and the other one is the pieces, right? So, 6, 7.
Interesting debate.
6, 7.
I've got teenagers.
Nobody knows.
Apparently, that's not a thing anymore. I'm told.
I know we are so behind the curve here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so,
what is everyone else wearing? No watch for Ralph.
No. Of course, a watch. It's the Submariner.
The Sub. Okay.
Well, we are talking about dive watches, right? So, yeah.
I've got my full fat Doxa 1200T Shark Hunter for today.
Oh.
This is
It's a big boy.
It's a chunky guy. It was my 50th birthday present for my wife. So
Lovely. What a good
special.
choice.
Showing quite a bit of wear and tear. And that's one of those watches that you can debate, you know.
So have you taken it down to 1,200 meters?
I don't go down to that depth often. Put it that way.
we talk about
And
this
when
in a
I
bit.
do, I wear something else.
Yeah. Just a Speedo when he goes down that.
There was
since it's been how long now since you had this? I mean, it's a 50th birthday, so it must be around 20 years.
I'm
just
57,
so visually
so
checking
about 7 years. About 7 years.
No, just joking. So I have a little quiz then for you guys. Sorry, Martin. First, your watch. You haven't said it.
I've already said it. You weren't paying attention.
Yeah, that's true. I was so busy
I'm
laughing.
still wearing the Black Bay, which
Right. So,
mentioned already.
I have a
twice.
small little like, there's like these when you play these cards, auto quartet, right?
Of trumps.
So we
The
need to
top
check.
trumps, yeah.
Yeah, trump card or whatever it's called. Yeah, even though I don't like the name anymore. But the thing is, we have these. You two have our divers, even certified divers, right? And even Julian, in your case, it was your job, which you explain a bit later that you actually, were diving for money. While for Martin, he's paying money to dive. So different story. And I only snorkeled in my life. So
That's a form of diving.
So now we want to see who of us wins the competition of the best dive watch point system that I made up just 3 minutes ago.
Just now. That I just now made up this very second.
Exactly. So, who of us three has the watch with the deepest depth rating?
Not me.
So,
I'm
what's your
wearing my
deepest
one
depth
with the
rating?
deepest that I
Martin,
want. So
come on,
that's
start.
1200.
Martin, what is it?
Mine is going to be all my tutors at 200. So
200.
I had the Pelagos, the full fat Pelagos at 500. That was my deepest watch. And then I realized I don't need a helium escape valve because I'm not a saturation diver.
Right. Okay. Julian?
That's the one I'm wearing, 1200 meters.
1200 meters. And of course, my super ocean, 1500 meters.
So you win.
Well, yes. Now, we have to debate this because Breitling is one of these watch brands that says 30 meter is hand washing. Patek, others, and Omega says 50 meters means 50 meters. You can dive down to 50 meters, water sports, blah, 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 for the modern ones, right? But Breitling, and this is a Breitling, was on the opposite side saying, that's 100 meters is good for water. 50 meter, just maybe in the pool, but don't dive with it. So is these 1500 meters actually 1500 meters? Or is this complete rubbish?
Is it an ISO certified
500?
watch?
No. I don't think so. I mean, it doesn't say dive on it.
1500 seems a bit steep for that watch, for how thin it is and everything. Like
it's not thin at all.
It's for 1500 meters. It is.
It has a
Compared to the
helium
Pro
escape
Prof.
valve.
I see your escape valve.
I see.
Yeah.
So the Doxa is a real diver. Does it have diver on the dial?
No.
No. It says sub 1200D Shark Hunter. That's it.
Because it has the date window. So the date window, I believe it doesn't have Lume at 3:00, right?
It does not. So it doesn't meet.
Yeah.
So it's not
the new
ISO.
standard. Yeah. Doesn't meet the new
So
standard.
I'm the only one with an ISO certified watch at the table.
Theoretically.
Awesome. Yeah.
Theoretically.
And mine with the tutors, we know 200 meters means 200 meters.
Correct.
These are the Black Bay 54 has been worn by the Marine Nationale. They had a special edition one that just said 200 meters in red on the dial. I think that was also by the Commando Hubert. And then, of course, the FSD.
Hubert.
We know that the Commando Hubert use that on a regular basis. So I think safe to say is 200 meters.
My working assumption is that a Doxa would be true to the dive rating plus 20%, which I think is the standard for testing.
That's when it's proper. Yeah, this is also what Rolex does. And with all of their watches. And the diving standard requires that as well, right?
Does
if you have a diver watch.
Doxa test depth rating
So I would say this is the
listed number. Hold on. Let's see what ChatGPT says. Like most professional dive watch brands, Doxa tests its watches to a safety margin above the listed depth rating, but you should never intentionally dive past the stated limit. Professional dive watches, blah, 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 go to 125 to 125.5% of the rating with a 25% safety buffer to account for dynamic underwater movement and manufacturing tolerances. The depth printed on the Doxa dial, 1,200 meters for the sub 300T. I forgot the 300T was also 1,200 meters.
Same case.
Is the maximum guaranteed operational limit for regular use. But they're tested to 25%.
Okay, before I get into the questions, to the professional of what you would likely see in 1,500 meters depth. Then you
Inside
look
of
at
your
your watch.
coffin.
Yeah.
What you'll see.
Let's go on with this competition.
You win that one, Ralph, just based on what's
Yeah,
put
the
on the
number.
dial.
Yeah, okay. So again, I had this. Do you see the nice red accents on it? It has a nice red writing. The super ocean is in red, and then this is the second hand has a red tip. I really like it. But the point is here, I went to the boutique once, and I know I've probably told the story before, but went to the boutique and said, "Look, I have this watch, but I'm looking at another one." And the guy showed me some other Breitlinks, and I said, "Okay, but this has only a 1,000 meter depth rating. My old one has 1,500, 1,500." And he said, "Oh, so yeah, if you're going that deep, then this watch is not for you." So in this realm, what is the deepest depth that you have ever dived to, Julian, as a professional?
So I've been diving for 25 years. The absolute maximum, well, officially, the absolute maximum depth that I've been to is 39 meters.
Yeah.
I'm a conservative diver. I'm a very by the book diver, and your maximum depth for recreational diving before you get into decompression or technical diving is 40 meters. So being conservative, allowing for error in measurements on your gauges and stuff, my absolute maximum bottom is 39 meters, leaving myself a meter, and that's where I keep it. When you're diving with a dive computer, you will also find that if you go below 40 meters and you don't do decompression step-ups, safety steps when you are resurfacing, the computer shuts down for an amount of time. And some of them even you have to have it taken to the manufacturer for resetting because it just doesn't let you dive again. It's unsafe diving.
Oh,
So yeah, very much not recommended.
it's like, sorry, your dive computer is calling the authorities, basically saying, "Me, this guy did something wrong."
It's not allowing you to dive. So, but Ralph, I did mention to Martin, I did hear you guys saying on one of the previous podcasts that I was a Navy diver, which is actually not the case.
He was in the Navy.
I don't want to take credit where it's not due. So I was in the Navy, and I am a diver, but I wasn't a Navy diver.
Okay,
makes sense.
Just to be clear.
Sure. So you're the pencil pusher at the Navy, but you also dived in the pool. I got it.
Yes.
So all these. No, let's say it the other way. You're not allowed to talk about it.
No, it's not. There's nothing secret about it. There's nothing secret about it.
Secret commando.
But by the way, also maybe another misconception about Navy diving is that people, I think, kind of just assume that it would be deep diving, which is absolutely not the case. Military diving is actually very shallow because it very often involves demolitions, explosives, either setting them or removing them, which happens, you only set them either on structures or the hulls of ships, which are very...
Even the SEALs, right? The SEALs, before the SEALs were around, were called what? UDT.
Yeah.
Underwater Demolitions Team.
Correct.
And that became the Navy SEALs.
Yeah, and very seldom, I would imagine that the operating, sort of average operating depth would be under 20 meters, allowing for ships, drafts, and so on. So deep diving is commercial diving, where you're doing welding on underwater rigs and pipes and stuff like that. That's the saturation diving. Anyway, sorry, I got distracted there.
No, that's good. That's good.
It's fine. Even I have to point out, even my dive instructor that he was a saturation diver. He was doing underwater welding on oil pipelines in Egypt. And I asked him, okay, this is the first question you asked, like, how deep have you gone? And even he said 60 some odd meters, and he said that was it, right? We don't go any. But he was down there for like a month at a time, right? Living in the diving bell, and this is where you need these, helium escape valves, is because when you're brought up, it's going to ping off because you're breathing this helium. This what is it? The trimix. that you're breathing down there because you're down there for so long. But also, this is the same with like kind of offshore oil rig workers. They go out, they maybe have 2 weeks, a month on, and they're working 24/7, and then they get 2 months off.
They don't
right?
work 24/7.
No,
They still have
24/7
to
is in
sleep. Yeah.
but quotation marks, right? Quotation marks. They're out there 24/7. They don't travel back because it would be too expensive to bring them there, bring them back every single time for a weekend. So
Deep diving is super, super, super dangerous. I think people always underestimate the physiology of what depth does to the human body. And I mean, space travel is comparatively safe,
yeah,
if you compare it to ultra deep diving. So it's such a small percentage of humans that can actually go down there, work down there, has the training to go down there. And if things go wrong, they go wrong in not a small way. I think the most famous decompression incident, I don't know if you guys have maybe read about it, it's called the Byford Dolphin incident, decompression accident. 5 people died, one seriously injured, and died in the most gruesome way possible as a result of unplanned decompression, rapid decompression. They were inside a decompression chamber where the divers were living. I think this was in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. And 2 guys outside helping the divers come from the diving bell and into the decompression chamber where they live. 4 divers in the chamber, 2 helpers outside. And the atmospheric pressure inside the decompression chamber was 9 atmospheres, and obviously 1 atmosphere outside. And something went wrong in disconnecting the bell from the decompression chamber, and you had a massive and sudden adjustment of pressure from 9 to 1 through a gap. I think it's about this size, a hatch that didn't close properly, and obviously catastrophic consequences for the divers. The 3 of the divers inside just had massive sort of decompression-like injuries.
well,
And the one
I
was
mean, just
blasted
imagine
out.
your lungs, for instance, right? Your lungs are full of air, or whatever you're breathing at that depth. And then if you have a balloon, you fill up a balloon, like we were doing this in our diving instruction or whatever, our diving course. You go down and you have the marker for diver below when you release it from the bottom, and you blow in just a little bit of air from your regulator, and then that air then expands massively as it goes up, right? So if you're coming from 9 atmospheres, 90 meters to 1
To the surface,
right,
in a second.
to the surface, that your lungs will effectively expand and pop, right?
Or holding
So
your
all
breath
the
is a
air
bad
inside
idea.
your veins, the nitrogen in your veins will expand and pop. It's not pretty.
Yeah.
Nope.
You could read up on it. I mean, it's fairly
Yes,
well documented.
it's very gruesome. These kind of pressure things. I mean, there's this latest big incident where a submarine collapsed was this one that went to the Titanic, which was made of carbon fiber, which is not ideal.
What you would use at
which
all
is
for this.
turned out the experts who warned about it were right, and that was a split second in which it just basically was produced into like a cardboard, basically, because it just was pressed together. So at least this is not a gruesome death. This is a very quick one.
How deep is the Titanic at? Does anybody?
I think it's
any of us know?
4,000 meters, 12,000 feet, 4,000 meters thereabouts.
Yeah, it's pretty deep. Yeah.
It is, according to my good friend, 3,800 meters.
Yeah.
Correct. 4,000.
So I think
All
the
right.
next.
What's
the
your
next?
next? Oh, I didn't
next
answer
question.
my question. I haven't answered. You haven't answered. Only Julian answered your question. How deep have you gone? Was the
No,
question?
that wasn't the question. It was about watches. This was just a follow-up question because of we're having a podcast.
I thought we were doing top trumps for that too.
No, it's just a
I was
sidetrack.
busy adding up the points. I was going to score the win on that one.
So,
How deep have you gone, Ralph? Just out of curiosity.
5 meters, maybe.
Okay, I got 18.
Because look, I am just diving down with just without even weights, right? So
Yeah.
this is how far you get without actually. You're just trying to get deeper, but you just don't because you still have you're holding your breath. So It's yeah.
Okay, so you
That's
get a
it.
point then. That's
My
one
watch,
for you
my
and
watch
one
gets a point.
for Ralph. Yeah.
And I wanted to say in the decompression chamber, which is very, very important, is that you have a manual helium escape valve, not an automatic one, so that you have something to do.
Unscrew the valve.
Because otherwise you're sitting there for weeks decompressing, and at least you have another crown to unscrew.
Fiddle with.
Yes,
What are you wearing
exactly.
then?
It's important.
Omega, I guess, right?
You have to, I guess. It's the only one I remember that it's still. No, there are others, I think. But
Omega has
but-
the manual one. I
Yeah.
had the Tag Heuer 500-meter aqua racer, which also had that one was they said was automatic, but it looked like a crown. And then, but the funny thing is, the Ploprof does not have one because the Ploprof was properly designed, and the whole idea is, if we design the watch to not let the helium in to begin with, guess what?
You don't need
Doesn't need to
Helium
get
doesn't have to
out.
get out.
Oh, so
Genius.
clever.
The AP
Meanwhile-
offshore diver also has a manual one. Thinking about it now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Didn't you have it, or yours was not the diver, or which one did you have, Ralph?
I had the
Have?
Royal
No,
Oak
you sold.
offshore, the
But
chrono.
it's not the
the
diver,
chrono,
yeah.
chrono. Yeah, but I wanted to have the diver, but then
They never sat well on my wrist. I've tried several of them on. They just too bulky and high. Sits very high on the
they
wrist.
are very high, and it's the chrono is just because it's somehow better distributed. It's okay, but it is a chunky watch. It's the offshores are big chunky monsters.
All right.
Anyhow, so
question.
next question. Which of us has the watch, the diving watch with the oldest brand history?
You do.
Me?
Yeah.
I
Wow.
have two that are.
You have a sub as well, no? No, wait. Pause. Oldest dive history.
Yeah, brand. I said
So the
not-
brand itself, not the watch itself, is what
No.
I'm understanding.
Yes.
So
yes.
then you have a sub, Julian, right?
I do. I have it here.
So I don't
I
have a
have.
sub anymore. So you guys win. That's 1953.
Okay.
Boom.
53, 54.
So this is the same, right? I mean, it's the one
It's a
six.
So and you have the Blanc Pond.
This
So
is 53.
technically,
Yeah,
either
Blanc
way,
Pond wins.
the Blanc Pond was technically.
There you go. No,
rumors say before the Rolex. So
Yes.
that was it.
I
this
think,
whole-
I think
yeah.
Perez, Jose Perez did the research, and if I remember correctly, the sub came out ahead. I think.
Nobody. This is one of
That-
those things
this is
that's
the
been
thing.
argued forever.
There is no proof either way, right?
Mm.
This is the thing. And unfortunately, there were two people who were there during this time, Jean-Jacques Fichter and this other guy who's the Hubert or the diver, whatever, who was at the time helped with the development. And they died about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. But they were on record of saying when things happened, right? So these were the last few people who actually were there during this time. And he came out with the story after there was no living witness anymore. So that's a bit of a, they are living witnesses. Sure, they work for the company, but still, why would they all lie?
This is very similar to
It's a
the
bit like,
the
don't do that.
Zenith El Primero story, right? You name it El Primero, but there was two other brands or two other, one conglomerate and one brand that were at the almost the same time.
No. This
and
is not true. It's just like it was the first one that was presented to the world.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the
It was
first one
presented,
sold.
but who knows when research and development started, right? And all this, right? So the same with the sub and the Blanc Pond. You don't really know.
Yeah, and this is the thing. There's not enough paperwork and
Who
all
had
of
the
this stuff.
idea, right?
and
That's the question.
I think Paris is sometimes getting into these things and fully believing in the opposite what they say, having no proof, just trying to disprove that they don't have proof. But that doesn't mean automatically that the reverse is true either, right? So sometimes it's a bit, it's a bit tough there.
It doesn't prevent me from enjoying either of the brands, put it that way. And in
Absolutely.
fact, as watch lovers, we need things to debate and to deplore and to argue about. So I prefer being a little bit of a mystery, then we can argue about it.
But what we can say is, for instance, look at the Doxas, right? The Doxa Sub 300 came out in 1967, I think. And out of all of them, that was the only one that was sold in dive shops. That was the dive computer at the time, right?
So which one? Which one did you say?
The Doxa. the Doxa you would go into in the 60s, you would go into today, for instance, you go into a dive shop and they sell the Garmin computers and all this fancy stuff. You went in the 60s and they sold fins and masks and Doxas. And that's what makes it so cool. So these were actual, dive watches, not
And
desk
when did
divers.
the Blancpain Aqualung came along?
Must have been
Because that
in the
Aqualung
50s
is
as
basically
well.
a dive shop, right?
I think Aqualung as a company was
Doc,
that
it's
not
a
the
brand.
American? That was the American brand that Jacques Cousteau owns
There's
or
2
bought or something,
Aqualungs.
right?
So if you look at it, it says the first Aqualung watch, which is a Blancpain. The Blancpain Aqualung was in the early 50s. It was for blah, blah, blah. The silent Jacques Cousteau wore this watch in 1956. Where was this bloody Aqualung? Okay, the Aqualung dive watch developed by Blancpain in the early 50s is another significant milestone in the brand's history. Part of the 50 Fathoms line, the Aqualung was one of the first serious dive watches ever produced. This watch holds significant historical importance as it was used by the French, US, German, and Israeli Navy. There you go. But yeah, so again, tribute to the Aqualung. There was a new one that came out, but it was in the 50s. So
Don't forget about Zodiac either, right? Also early 50s.
Yes.
Also early 50s.
So I did a ChatGPT question. I'm somewhat obsessed with ChatGPT, in case you were wondering. I asked him, I said, what are the most prominent dive watch brands with the kind of heritage tied to diving? And he said, he came back with 5. Rolex, Blancpain, Doxa, Zodiac, Tudor. These are the 5 that he came up with. He said, technically, we could talk about Squale, but before Squale made Squale, they made parts for other companies, right? So they made the case for Rolex and stuff like this.
Blancpain and Doxa.
Yeah, they made all of these, but then technically those were not Squales.
From Squale.
So Squales came later, so that's why he said, I'm not counting Squale. But Zodiac was one of the top 5 brands that... oh, no, and he said Omega as well. I think Tudor was left off. And Omega was instead of Tudor because he said technically Tudor doesn't count because it's just the rebranded Rolex at the time.
At the time, it was just Rolex cases, different movement. But while we're at it, what do you guys think about the new 300-piece limited edition 50 Fathoms release?
For only
which is
$18,900 US.
I saw it only yesterday.
54,000 dirhams.
That's the one that looks a bit like the 62
Seiko.
Mass Seiko, right?
Yeah. Ralph showed me the picture and I said, oh, nice 62 Mass.
Yeah. And I sent a picture of my 62 Mass behind just after that because saying, hey, look, I had one of these.
But your 62 Mass was the first one, the 40mm one, right? And then they did the 37mm, which is a spitting image of this Blancpain.
But I must say that this original Blancpain that this is modeled on is also 37.5 millimeters because I have a friend who has that original one. So
and theoretically, if we want to go that far, then we could say that Seiko copied the 62 Mass, copied the Blancpain. Yeah. So but which one are you going to buy?
And the original had the Squale case that was used by pretty much a lot of other brands. I guess
most likely they just use the same case supplier, right? Like the Monin cases, so many brands use that exact same case. But to answer your question, Rolf, I haven't had enough time to really study it. I would say it's probably not for me, certainly not at that price.
Yeah.
Maybe if I didn't already have the Blancpain, it would be something I would look at.
Sorry for the people who are listening. You showed us your Blancpain. This is the no radiation Blancpain, right?
It's the it's the mil-spec for
sorry, this is mil-spec, the water
the Hodinkee mil-spec. So essentially you have an indicator that if water is into the case, it turns colors, right?
That's correct. They both go orange, I believe.
So then you know if your watch is ruined.
So it's a round big indicator that is the top half is white, the bottom half is orange, and if it's exposed to moisture, it will turn
Mhm.
orange altogether,
I
which
believe.
could
And it
look
has no
nice.
date.
No
Mm.
date.
It's a no date watch. And the biggest thing, the coolest thing about the Hodinkee one is they removed that stupid Blancpain inscription.
So how big is this watch? Is it 42?
40 mil. 40 mil.
40
I think,
only.
I think
Oh,
all the
perfect.
limited editions are
Yeah.
40, which I prefer, obviously.
Yes, totally.
Just, a bit of
Yeah, I had the
It's an
Blancpain
awesome
50
watch.
Fathoms, the Bathi scarf in ceramic with the blue one. And it is big because of also the dial is so big and the bezel is very thin. So it just looks even bigger. And then, of course, the dial is pretty empty, which is also actually quite nice because it's a beautiful dial, but it makes the watch look big. It
But
just
I mean,
does.
dive watches, I kind of want to give a pass on the size front. I think, a chunky dive watch still has a certain attraction for me. This is one of those. Big tuna.
Is this the Arnold?
Yeah. By the way, I forgot
Sorry.
to mention
You're-
for all the listeners, we are videoing this episode. So hopefully there will be a video on YouTube so you can see the things, not just hear the things.
Yes.
Okay. So show us your tuna again.
So this is not the Arnie, which is an Digi. This is the big tuna.
Right,
which is
big
just-
tuna. Okay.
It's just completely unapologetically ugly. And I love it. It's just,
But
know,
it's
Yes.
cool.
it's so ugly. It's almost beautiful again.
Yeah. It has so many areas where you think, oh, look, there's another chamfer, another cutout, another.
Yeah, the
piece
story
somewhere.
apparently is one of the commercial divers, Japanese commercial divers, used I don't know what Seiko watch and said no, he didn't feel that it had enough protection. Can Seiko please do something about it? And they said yes, we can. And they just put a big shroud around it, slapped it on, screwed it in with a few screws, set it back. He says perfect. I can use that.
Let's throw some metal onto the problem, right?
Yeah, perfect.
More steel will
Perfect
fix
solution.
it. Yeah.
All right.
So
More
this
questions,
and also,
or are you done with your questions?
more questions. So the oldest brand you win with Blancpain. Then of course we have the helium escape valve, right? The I think we only Martin doesn't have one, so
No, I don't.
we have
sadly.
at least automatic ones, right? And then highest power reserve, you also win that because you have the Seiko, which is a quartz movement. That definitely beats
5-year
everything
power
else.
reserve.
And of course, you have the Blancpain, which is I think at least 100 hours, right? Is this
It
the
is quite a bit.
1315 or is this the 1150?
That I don't know, Rolf. I'm not a movement guy. It's a lot.
Because
It
both of
lasts for a long
these
time.
have either 120 or 100 power hours power reserve. So you win that easily. So I think we have already won that. So
Which the Doxa has like 35 or something.
yeah,
The
38.
Doxas have like a sadly small amount of power
same as
reserve.
same as
It's
my
like 12
super.
hours.
Same as my
Yeah.
Super Ocean because it's still the ETA 2824
Yeah.
chronometer
Yeah, of course. The
spec,
Doxas are all
38.
Solitas, right?
Yeah, same.
So,
So
Okay.
the last question I have is the best crown protection in our group here. So anybody
no one
has
has a Panerai.
Oh, I beg to differ.
you have
Oh, you do have the Panerai.
See, there you go.
So you have all of
you
them.
win, you win, you win.
I hate to say it. I didn't realize.
No.
This is definitely
If
the
somebody
best.
had a Ploprof, I think the Ploprof
Okay.
would beat the Panerai.
But is it a
Because
crown
that
protection?
Ploprof is nuts.
This is a bezel.
Didn't
bezel.
the Ploprof have?
This whole thing there on the side is to turn the bezel, right? It's a big.
Didn't the Ploprof have a? Yeah, no, it has the. No, the Ploprof has the bar. If you look at it, the Ploprof is
Yeah, but the bar is for
oh,
the is just for the bezel to turn the bezel. You press the button on the Ploprof on the side in order to turn
Hold
the
on,
bezel.
here.
Otherwise, that's it.
Can you see my screen?
Mhm.
So we take a look at.
Okay. The crown protector is also fixed. Yeah.
So if you look here,
Yeah.
you have the thing that you have to. There's a line here, right? So the crown protector is this big, and it goes on the outside. Because this one, if you recall, does not have a screw-in crown. So you have to. I think it doesn't have a screw-in crown, right? It would have nowhere to go.
I think you have to push it in, right, in order to
I've
set
never
or
handled
something.
a plow
I don't
prof.
know.
I have no idea how that
Yeah,
works.
I don't recall how this works.
I think you pull
but
it
look
out.
at the size of that. This is the older one with the
Okay, that is big.
boy.
But this pusher on the right side, on the top right, this orange
That's for the
thing,
bezel.
That's for the bezel, yeah.
Yeah, so that will. So I don't recall how this. I remember that you pull this out. It's like a T. The T moves out of the way somehow, and then you can access the crown.
Possible, yeah.
Let's see if we can see. It's a part of the crown stem.
You can
The
also.
whole thing pulls out.
Yeah.
So there you go. The whole thing pulls out.
Okay,
I don't know.
I think the
even make
Plow
of
Prof
this.
is incredibly ugly, but that's
Look
why
at
I love
this.
it. Yeah,
So it is a screw-in.
it's a cool
Does the
watch.
whole thing rotate? I don't remember. I played with this once.
I don't think so. I think it's just
So
pulls out
this
and then
pulls
you can.
out, and then you can rotate somehow.
It's a bit like the Panerai itself, where you also can't just touch the entirety of the crown, right? You just have this top and bottom, which you can just twist.
Have
But in this one, for example,
the Plow Prof?
Yeah. No, I've never owned it.
No.
I have a friend who owns it, but I've never actually had it in my hand.
I've always been fascinated
just
by it. I'm just not sure how much I'd
terrible.
wear it.
This
It's
is the
so
issue,
big.
right? You're never. It's such a cool piece of tech. I found one at Rivoli 10 years ago at the Rivoli outlet in Dubai Outlet Mall, and it was $20K they wanted for it,
Wow.
and which is a fairly decent deal. It was
Yeah.
60% off, and this is the titanium one, no date, and
Man, you should have
gray
taken that.
dial. It was so
should have
cool.
taken that
so
for that
cool.
price, especially the
With
titanium.
the shark proof bracelet.
Oh,
And-
perfect configuration.
Yeah, what the hell am I going to do with this? Like, you look like a tool either way. Like you,
there is something to that. Wearing that around the mall doesn't quite look the same as wearing it on a dive boat.
yeah. But even on a dive boat, I would say you look like a tool because you're going down 20 meters max, and you're going to wear the Plow Prof when theoretically you could wear a Speedmaster, which Omega says is 50 meters water resistance, and you can dive to 50 meters with. I don't know. Plow Prof.
So coming to the last question, which also Julian will win, which was the most expensive dive watch, and I think that is definitely the Blancpain. So I think we can.
To my embarrassment, yes.
Yes. So the winner of my little quiz is Julian.
But the Hodinkee edition, the prices of that thing have skyrocketed. So you cannot get one for under 100K dirhams now. Yeah, they're extremely.
You shouldn't have told me, Martin, because I might stop putting it up for sale again.
You offered it to me for 70, I think it was, and then I realized I don't have 70.
You just realized that. It's like,
I
yes,
realized it.
dear.
I thought about it.
Let
And
me
then I
find
was like, I
my
have to sell everything.
70K. Where are they? So,
I forgot my wallet.
I do have a question, Rolf, for you regarding the next acquisition that I'm planning, which is the Zin U50.
yes.
I remember, maybe you mentioned you had one, right? And I think you said you never really warmed to it.
No. I warmed to it. I liked it. I miss it. I was just recently looking again at U50s. I loved wearing it. It also it was helpful that all the Omega Seamaster 300 professional bands, the rubber straps fit it. And also the straps for the Moonwatch fit this case. So apparently they have just the same case dimensions somehow. I mean, the luck stuff. And so it really works well with them. It is a really, really nice watch. It's very slim for 500 meters water resistance. It's of course super legible. I miss it. I want it back. So
I just feel if you're a dive watch collector and you don't have a Zin in there, your collection is not quite complete.
If you're a German and you don't have a Zin, I think your collection is not quite complete. I told him when he first got it, I said, you didn't have a Zin? I just assumed that like every German at birth was given a birth certificate and a Zinn.
They're going to confiscate
Here
the
you
passport,
go.
Rob.
I even lived in Frankfurt and I didn't have a Zinn. I was actually so often at the Zinn boutique and looking at watches, and I was thinking like, wow, they're so expensive. Who buys such expensive watches? Back in the days, right?
I also really like the CQ, speaking of Germans. The
Yes.
CQ is, I think, the Glashütte is a
Glashütte.
fantastic looking watch, except for the date window, which I don't like. But everything else, I'm a huge fan of.
Yes, the hands with the big arrows and all of the stuff. It's really nice.
It's a beautiful watch.
It's beautiful. And you have a wonderfully finished movement, handmade and hand finished. And you now, even with the smaller CQ, that was my gripe with the first one. Usually, of course, dive watches don't really need display case backs, but you have such a beautiful movement and you want to see it, right? And now they actually sell you a transparent case back. If you want to, even for your existing 39 millimeter watch, because eventually, after many, many years, they figured out that people are not buying it because they don't have a transparent case back. The bigger one does.
That's definitely why, yeah.
And then they figured out, well,
Not at all.
no, they did, because then they started to actually offer it as a
So
retrofit.
you're telling me that these, people are going into the Glashütte, boutique and saying, no, I will not buy a CQ because it does not have a see-through case. It's not because the prices are ridiculous.
I have
and
two people who actually
half off on the secondary market.
Yeah, I have two people who actually said that. I would prefer it to have a transparent case back. I think I wouldn't buy it. Because if you
Julian, should dive watches have transparent case backs?
I really don't care. I personally prefer a solid case back.
Ditto.
But I don't really care.
But why? Are you wearing the watch anyhow on your skin there, so it doesn't really matter. So
people also say, well, you're compromising the integrity of the watch, but not really, because you've got the crystal on the front, So if you've got a crystal on the back.
I always think like, look,
I don't really care.
A transparent case back doesn't harm anybody, right? When people saying like, I mean, if you can make the watch slimmer, maybe then there's a reason. I think you can say a millimeter. You sometimes can make the watch slimmer if you have a solid case back. But on the other hand, people who don't want to look at it, just don't look at it. It's on your wrist. You don't see the transparent case back. You never see it literally if you don't want to see it, right?
Yeah.
So
look, I think it's if you don't have a decent movement to show off, rather make a thinner watch with a solid case back. There's more value for me in a thinner watch than seeing an industrial finished movement.
But that's for us. If you ask somebody who's new to watches, I mean, I was absolutely inundated by these watches. Not inundated was the wrong word. I mean, I was so fascinated with these. When I saw open heart watches, right? When you're a collector you sees the balance wheel, right? On the dial. There's some Zenith, there's some Frederic Constant, there's some cheaper watches that have this open heart. It was fascinating for me as a younger person to see this inner workings of a watch. I thought this was the best thing ever. Now I would say, if it's not a tourbillon, I don't want to see it on the front.
I will compromise with you, and I will say Hunter case backs are
cool.
That I would agree with.
Cool.
That I agree with.
That's a party trick. That's a party trick.
It is. It's so cool. But I have two watches with the sapphire case backs, Zenith, and that movement I like looking at. The El Primero is stunning.
That's beautiful.
And just the number of parts. And by the way, you do not need that many parts, right? Like that movement is so overbuilt, over-engineered, but still in a way that fails all the time. I don't know how that's possible, but they did something that you could do with 100 components, but they're like, no, we do it with 300 components. And that's what they did. And then it still sucks in terms of, longevity. And then I have the Grand Seiko. And the Grand Seiko is a fantastic movement to look at because handmade. But speedy, sub, tutors, I don't need a open case back on any of these. These are not movements to look at. These are movements to make the watch work, and that's it. So,
yeah, but I think it's always nice to see it. I think it doesn't harm anybody. See, I have Tudors with transparent case backs, and of course the Tudor is also nothing super special to look at. Tudor movement, right?
Yeah, Tudor movement is ugly as hell.
Yeah, and Rolf, your Blancpain has the Hunter case back, right?
Yes.
Your Blancpain.
This is a Norcane with a Canisi movement on the back. So
it's a stunning absurdly tiny movement.
It's
It's literally
small.
like a third of the size of the watch.
This is a 42 millimeter watch, and yes, that it is.
This is what I absolutely hate. If they would have closed that case back, I wouldn't have cared. But to have a movement that tiny in a watch that big, they should be embarrassed to put that freaking crystal on the back.
You have
And
very often.
that was my.
Yeah.
But this wasn't just them, right? I sold my AP Royal Oak because of the same thing, right? This was the old 15400.
Again, nobody sees it. See, this is my Hunter caseback.
Yeah.
That's a lovely one.
This one's cool.
Blancpain. And yeah, you can open the case, and then you see also that it is a nice movement in there.
And a properly sized one at that. And you get the gold for the case back. Instead of saying, well, yeah, we saved this much money if we don't put the gold on the back, right? We put a piece of sapphire, call it a solid gold watch, and we make a bunch of money.
Yeah. This is definitely, and also for this watch, they had to actually move the under lug correctors that usually are in this case, right? Because they have these patented at Blancpain, that they have the corrector not in the case where you have to use pushers. They have them under the lugs where you can use your fingernail or a toothpick to just put them, because they're hidden, right?
Yeah.
But for this one, because of the Hunter case back, because it adds height, the case is too thick to use the underlug correctors comfortably. So they moved them inside under the case, right? So as you can see here, they put them on the bottom here.
I think that's an even better solution.
Yeah, that is
because
cool.
now you have a functional use. You have to open the case back to actually make corrections to the watch. So that's functional.
I like this.
Yeah, that's great.
So I think we've gone off topic again.
I wanted to talk to you
Julian
about
here to
we
talk about
could
diving.
talk a bit more about wax jackets.
And wax jackets. But let's talk a little bit about diving, because that's why you're here.
Just one thing. I have a new watch. I don't know if I already said this. It's a diver. Look at this beautiful sky blue. It's an Orient diver.
Yes.
The diving star, or
No, this is an Orient Mako 40 limited edition.
Who made the diving star? Was that them as well?
Orient Star. I don't know.
Orient Star.
Maybe that's a higher level of Orient. So
no, diving star.
And the coolest thing is this is
yellow dial.
This is a
Doxa color, right?
This is a 75-year anniversary watch.
Yeah, it's a yellow.
That came out in 2023. I paid this on Amazon for 999 dirhams. So less than people pay for rubber straps for their Blancpain, for example. And it's an entire watch.
You're enjoying it.
It's really nice. It's 40 millimeters. The only thing I don't like on this watch is that it's the bracelet doesn't taper at all, and it's a stamped glass. But what can you expect for 999 dirhams? And what I like is that on the case back, not only do you have this numbered limited edition, this 6,000 pieces, which is quite a lot. It is also has the brand name Epson on the bottom, because this is not actually, there are two different companies, Orient. They're separate. They do their own production.
So there's Seiko and there's Seiko Epson, which are two separate companies.
Yeah. And now, of course, they share more stuff in the meantime, but they were very independent from Seiko, even though owned by the same Seiko group, which owns Seiko Epson, and then, of course, Seiko and Grand Seiko, and Alba and whatever they have there, right? The other brands. But yeah. I like it.
I have an Orient
really cool.
Bambino, also with a baby blue dial, and I absolutely love that watch. 1,000 dirham watch. For the money, you cannot buy a better value proposition than that.
100%
it works
agree.
perfectly. It looks great. It's actually, in fact, the only watch that I get regular compliments on, and I think it's mainly because of the color. Nobody's noticed any Rolex that I've worn or anything else. But the Orient Bambino, that's a nice one.
Yeah, it's sometimes surprising.
All right, back to diving. So, Julian, as we know, as since you've been diving for a very long time, so I want to talk about kind of the history of dive watches and why they're important and why. So, from what I've heard, by the way, a lot of people started off, with dive computers. And now, apparently, there's a resurgence of moving away from dive computers and back to dive watches, kind of for simplicity's sake. And on top of this, there's been a lot of kind of issues with dive watches. So, for instance, I had a friend who has a Apple Watch Ultra, which of course has the dive computer, and he had two issues. One, in order to use the dive feature, you have to pay a subscription, and his subscription lapsed on one dive, and said, "Screw you, no diving feature for you," and it was
What?
gone. Yeah, apparently you do not have inbuilt dive computer. It's a monthly payment.
But wait.
Then
The dive computer functionality, you have the watch does automatically show you the diving depth and all of this stuff. This is built in. There's no subscription needed. If you
but he was telling me
utilize there's an extra dive computer app, then you might probably need the subscription.
So I'm
for it.
assuming, he was talking about an app. So there's a reason. I think it was because
don't
this one
think it's from
only tells
Apple.
you depth, and depth doesn't. You don't care about depth, right? Depth, you would want to know your, stops. You want to know your decompression time. You want to know a whole bunch of other things besides depth.
But then that's probably an
but-
app that he needs to purchase. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So he was saying that this, but he
It's
said
not
the
from
main
Apple. That's
issue,
what I'm saying.
and he stopped. It's not from Apple, no. And the main issue is the Apple Watch in cold water does not work. And he said it just literally, if the water is under, 25 degrees Celsius, just cuts out.
That is
it will not register depth.
that's unsafe. I mean, I'm
Exactly.
surprised to hear that. I don't wear any Apple product, so I can't really comment on how that works. But what I can say is that I'm surprised if if any dive computer, any dive instrument would just cut out because you haven't paid your subscription. Because
Yeah,
that's
but
a
it
life and
isn't.
death kind of thing,
But
right?
this is
Yeah.
the issue.
But it
is-
isn't really a dive computer. It's a watch.
It isn't really a dive computer.
And I
has
do believe
depth-
it's
depth
third-party
rating.
software that you have to install. It's not Apple native.
No, it is. It is third-party software based
Yeah.
on the Apple hardware
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
there. So, but then the cold water thing, apparently the depth rating just starts going in and out, and it becomes, which he says when it's warm, the watch works perfectly. Then as soon as you get into some cold water, it just does not work at all. So people have said, okay, well, I will now start wearing a regular, dive watch to start measuring bottom time. For a long time, people did, just have the dive computers, right? Which we've come like now full circle. So what do you think about this? You think, is it worthwhile
So
to wear do you wear a manual
I-
watch
I-
or automatic?
I do. Again, I mentioned I'm a very conservative diver. There's a saying in dive. There's actually two sayings in dive circles that I'd like to quote. The one is you get old divers and you get bold divers. You get no old bold divers. So that's why I'm a conservative diver. The other one is you only get two types of divers: those who pee in their wetsuits and those who say that they don't. So you can decide which one you are. But anyway, so to answer your question, Martin, is for safe diving, you really need three numbers to be aware of and monitoring constantly. You need your dive time, you need your depth, and those are
Mhm.
normally covered by a dive computer. And then you need your air pressure to see how much
Yeah.
you've got left to breathe. So if you've got those three numbers, you can do lots of safe, very, very safe recreational diving. I'm not talking technical decompression diving.
Yeah.
Now, whether you use a dive computer or a combination of a analog pressure gauge with a dive watch, that is all fine. For me, it's neither here nor there. It's just your style. I wear both. I wear my dive computer plus a dive watch. They say you wear it for redundancy, but I just wear it because it looks cool and I feel cool when I'm diving with it. That's the real reason. But the big advantage of a dive computer over just analog instruments is for repetitive diving. So in your training, they would have
Yeah.
taught you you have certain sit time, surface
Yeah.
interval time that you have to stay at the top to off gas your nitrogen in your blood.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
you've been breathing compressed gases, so the gas remaining in your system is higher than normal concentration. So you can't just dive immediately, one dive after another. You have to have off gassing periods.
Yeah.
Now, if you're diving with analog instruments, you have to use your dive tables to calculate
exactly.
when can you next dive. And because you've got, a dive table, a manual dive table and analog instruments, the assumption is that whatever your maximum depth was, is that you spent your entire dive at that depth because you use the maximum depth for your calculations. So you'll have a longer interval.
This is what I was going to say as well. Like, you
Right.
don't need technically even the pressure gauge. Most of us, right? We're not diving anywhere new, right? We're diving in places people have dove before. So you know the maximum depth. So for where I was diving, they said depending on tide, it's going to be between 14 and 18 meters. You say, okay, it's 18 to be on the safe side. And then you go and you look at your dive tables. And then you say, okay, I'm going to spend X amount of time because I have my watch. How much can I spend at 18 meters? And it'll tell you very quickly, like, I don't know, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you go down, you set your watch bezel to 30 minutes and then go from there.
That's correct. But this is the problem. So if you're wearing a dive computer, the dive computer algorithm gives you credit for time not spent at maximum depth.
Yeah.
So the time you spend going down to 18 meters, if 18 meters is your maximum depth, you might spend on an hour's dive only 5 minutes at maximum depth, but the rest of the time you either shallower and you've also ascended to your safety stop, which you will spend 3 minutes at, et cetera, et cetera. So based on the algorithm in your dive computer, you can dive quicker for a repetitive dive. And that's the real practical advantage of a dive computer over analog only. But that's really it. And there's other ways of also shortening your sit time, which is diving nitrox and so on, which is a mixed gas, reducing the nitrogen in what you breathe. But to be honest, for real recreational diving at anything around the 20-meter mark, if you're doing 2 dives a day, which is probably average, you don't really need a dive computer, I think where it becomes really useful if you start doing 3 or 4 dives a day, maybe 3 dives in the day and a night dive when you're on a liveaboard boat, there's nothing else to do. So you're just diving. Then it helps to get those credits for time at shallower depth. And that's when you also dive on a nitrox mix.
Yeah. Also, if you really want to just maximize your bottom time, right? Exactly. If you want to be on the bottom as long as possible, you need a computer. But if you are just kind of saying, okay, I'm going to go down, have some fun, come back up.
Correct.
No need.
Correct. Yeah. My biggest problem these days with both dive computers and watches is eyesight. I can't see them anymore. My arm's too short. I can't hold the dive computer or the watch far enough for me to see it. So I dive with one contact lens in the eye, so I can actually see around me with the lens in. And for the instruments, I look from the other eye. Comes with age, unfortunately.
Get some prescription masks. All right, they can do the glass.
They do, but the problem is if you take the mask off, then I can't find my gear on the boat. So.
True. Well, then you have glasses for the boat. Come on.
There's a lot of stuff to handle in the rough seas.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
very
gear.
rough seas of Fujairah.
There's a lot of gear, which is one of the things I like most about the sport. I like sport with equipment, buttons, switches, lights, gauges. But
you like spending money.
I'm curious how you enjoying the diving. I mean, I've asked you this, off the podcast. That for me is the biggest thing. If you're enjoying lugging all the gear, if you're enjoying the math involved in the calculations, are you enjoying the wildlife? Because it's essentially wildlife game viewing underwater, which I know, Ralph, you like doing. Do you find you enjoying the diving?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a wonderful thing. It's just like you're weightless. It's so quiet, and you hear very different things. You hear your own body much better, and you hear, your breathing, your heartbeat, everything else. So that's very introspective as well. And of course, you see a wonderful new world under the water. I mean, it's just absolutely fascinating. Even if you're just snorkeling and just looking down, right? I mean, my wife, for example, can't swim, so she went with a swim vest. And I took her because I'm a certified. What is it called? It's when you can rescue people, right, from the water. So that I can do. So I was comfortable enough, and also with an instructor close to us in any case, that she's on the water. And she enjoyed just head in the water, snorkeling, and just looking at this wonderful world underneath. So it's just, I mean, if you can just do it. I mean, it's just, it opens up so many different perspective about what happens under, what is it,
And
70,
no plans for you
80%
to
of our
scuba
world.
dive, Rolf? No plans for you to
I-
pick up scuba dive?
Yeah, I don't know why. I always thought I wanted to do this, but I have never really done it. So even though there's plenty of options here, right? We have so many hotels with pools, and there's so many easy
Just
ways to
don't
do
do
it.
it in Dubai. Dubai sucks. Dubai has the worst.
Yeah.
Dubai visibility is a
Dubai-
problem.
Dubai worst
There's not much
pools
to
or-
see.
No, for the
For the dive
diving in the
itself,
ocean.
yeah.
A lot of
No,
sand.
I've seen this in Dibba, right? When we go to Dibba and you just, dive
It's
a bit there, it's beautiful. So
And it's amazing how much the clarity, because the first day I went out, it was crystal clear, right? No current, nothing. Second day, same time, there was a heavy current, and the current was knocking up all the silt or whatever from the bottom, and it was so much harder to see, right? But otherwise, it is even then, like, it's amazing. I didn't expect to see this much wildlife down there. But for me personally, the reason I got into it, obviously, besides dive watches, is I love the idea of shipwrecks and just stuff on the bottom of the ocean. So I'm much more interested in that kind of stuff than I
See?
am in the wildlife. So this is why I want to go kind of a step further. Like I was going next, I was thinking about getting the deep water certification to go down to 40. Somebody said, no, you should do advanced diver first and then go for deep water. Advanced gets you to 30.
You certified through, is it Paddy, right?
Yeah, Patty.
So I'm not sure how their qualifications work. I think it used to be, I'm talking many years ago now, that you have to do 3 or 4 speciality training courses and then log, I think, something like 20 dives, and then you qualify for an advanced certificate. I'm not sure if it's the same.
So from what I heard, is it's just another course, another one of these courses that you have to do, and then you're certified as an advanced diver. But so in the deep water would take you to 40, and most of the shipwrecks are around 40. So once again, there's no rhyme or reason which way you should do it, but generally, from a buddy of mine was telling me that when you go for these dive trips, right? Because the advanced course is harder than the deep dive course. The trainers or whatever, not trainers, the instructors on the boat with you, the dive masters are much more interested in you having this advanced diving certificate than the deep. They don't care how deep you can go, because the advanced comes with a whole lot of other skills, apparently, that you don't have otherwise. So apparently, I didn't know this. Swimming backwards is one of the requirements, which I never even thought of, like, to swim backwards. And they're like, yeah, well, if you're stuck in a cave, you need to back up. Like, you have to be able to use your fins to get out backwards. You don't have space to turn around. And like stuff like this, I'm like, I never even crossed my mind.
But look, Martin, even as an advanced diver, you have no business being inside a cave unless you qualify.
That's a separate one. By the way, that's a separate certification.
Yeah.
The cave diving certification, but you cannot get the cave one unless you have the advanced one. So it's like an additive kind of situation.
Look, in my day, it was you have to do 4 speciality courses of your choosing and log a certain number of dives, and that then they issued you with an advanced diver certificate. And deep was one of the qualifications. Navigation is another one that I would highly recommend, just to be able to orientate yourself underwater and find your way back to the boat or to the buoy line or to the shore, and so on. Nitrox is another one, because just, if you do have the opportunity to do a lot of repetitive diving, that's great. You get a lot out of it. A lot of diving for your money. And then obviously, just from a safety perspective, stress and rescue course, it just teaches you how to deal with stressful situations underwater. You lose a mask completely, or something happens to somebody else and you're able to assist and so forth. Those are courses that are highly, highly recommended. I've been on a few dives with inexperienced divers that do very responsible things, and then at least if you're there to assist, you make it a safer experience for all of them. Because diving, as you probably will have found out, extremely safe sport with a few very basic rules. But if you break those rules, or even one of those rules, the consequences can be quite serious. So really important to stick to those very basic rules. Then it's safe.
So speaking of this rule, rule number 1 is you don't dive alone. I just watched a new movie on Amazon Prime called, I think it was the something tooth, Shark's Tooth, Amazon movie. What the hell was it called? It was called...
Wasn't Jaws, was it?
No. It was a... what the hell was this? It was a new Amazon movie, a cave shark. It was about a shark being in Devil's Mouth. It was called The Devil's Mouth. It just came out 2026, brand new. If you want to watch something
direct
stupid,
to Amazon Prime movie, so it's
it is, of course, naturally. So the best of it, best of the best. And in this, apparently, some kids, teenagers, whatever, go into a cave swimming. Just with a it's in Thailand with a instructor or whatever, a guide. They go swimming in this cave, and a shark has made its way into the cave.
Obviously,
and naturally a freshwater cave, which apparently they even mention this because there's I think there's a bull shark can go both freshwater and saltwater.
Right.
So they even mentioned this. So they knew somebody was going to pick this out. But what they didn't pick out is when they went in, there was one guy by himself with a bunch of scuba gear. And he's like, oh yeah, he's going to go scuba by himself while we go swimming. And I'm like, but no, you don't go scuba by yourself. And then he's got this little flashlight and he's going through the thing. And of course he gets attacked by the shark. But nonetheless, you see his mask float up to the top first. And I'm like, and this is exactly why you have to go with someone, right? Like if you lose sight and it's dark, right? This is in the middle of, a cave. You have your flashlight, but you're still not going to see shit underwater, right? So you have to go with someone. And there's so many reasons beyond that, right? If you run out of oxygen. And not to mention the fact that the guy had one tank and he was apparently under for 2 hours. And I'm just thinking to myself, nah, you're not going under for 2 hours without, side tanks or, twin tanks or something, right? So it was clearly nobody had.
So which watches were they wearing? I mean, after all, we watch podcasts, or what have you seen on their wrists?
Nothing. None of them were wearing any watches, no dive computers, nothing, zero.
So what a nothing burger of a story then.
It is. But anyway, go watch Devil's Mouth. It was a pretty funny hour and a half, I have to say. So,
have you guys seen the documentaries on the cave divers who rescued the soccer team in Thailand? Is it the Thai soccer team?
No, not that one. I saw the other one about the cave collapse in Thailand.
Yeah, I think that's the one.
No, the soccer team was a different one. There was the cave collapse.
Was it
that wasn't a soccer team? I thought
it was a group
that
of
had
young
a documentary
boys.
about it.
Maybe it wasn't a group. Maybe it wasn't a soccer team. It was a group of young boys got stuck because of flooding in the cave.
Correct.
And
then, that one I saw.
And then
they made a movie about that as well.
Correct. There's a documentary and a movie.
Elon Musk has showered himself with good behavior, right? He called one of the guys who took them out pedophile and all of this stuff, right? It was.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Who? What are you talking about?
Elon Musk, when these guys were in this cave, and this guy who was leading the rescue operation, or this former Navy diver, this spelunker, whoever tried to help them and get them out, Musk had these great ideas of giving them robots and underwater drones and all of this stuff. And they said, no, they just don't fit through the cracks. It's just not big enough. So just go away, Elon Musk. You cannot help us here, right? So basically, in a friendly way, they just said, no, you can't do it. And then he said, this guy's a pedophile and whatever. It's just this typical when you tell somebody
Meanwhile, by the way,
it was
the
pretty
shark
nasty.
fits through all these tiny. My first thought was, okay, Like, you go and find the tiniest little thing that you fit through and the shark doesn't. And guess what? The shark fit through everything. And they had to make a point on that too. They're like, yes, the rocks are very fragile. And I'm like, rocks fragile? Like, it's a cave? I don't think, underwater rocks are going to be that fragile, but apparently they were.
Suspension of
Anyway,
disbelief. Martin, quick question
it's
quick question that is both watch and diving related. So which watch did you use on your first dive?
I would say the worst watch for it, the FXD. The reason it's the worst watch for it is because it does not have a traditional bezel. It has a countdown bezel.
Okay.
So I didn't know how long I was going down for. So I couldn't really do much with the bezel. And I was kind of, like, I wish I had a regular bezel. But obviously the watch did fine. I was using it to check time. So essentially I just kind of kept track of time in my head. I knew what time we went down, and then I just did the math there. But it was a Pelagos FXD on a gray NATO strap. I don't think you can get more authentic than that.
That's absolutely appropriate for the sport.
I think so.
And Rolf,
and we did underwater navigation with the wrist compass.
Yeah.
So, which is what the Pelagos FXD was built for, right?
Correct.
The MN wanted this specifically for underwater navigation. So you have your countdown bezel, how long you want to swim in a direction, and then which direction you want to go. You have on your compass. And
this is also just a question to somebody who's done that professionally. If you're saying like, hey, we're swimming 20 minutes in this direction, then we turn 50 degrees east, and then we swim another 30 meters. How do you know which speed you're swimming underwater?
You don't, is the answer. And it's made even more complicated by the fact that there's current as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Underwater, you have no feeling of what is the current due to, where you're going, basically. Yeah.
Your best way to do is to try and combine your compass navigation with natural navigation, which is looking at points on the seabed that you fix on and say, you know what, let me look at that object and see how long it takes me to reach it, or how long I've been swimming to reach it. I've used that before. Actually, in Fujairah, I was leading a dive for one new diver, a friend of mine, and using a combination of compass and natural navigation. And I'm proud to say I was spot on. And we had to swim over a big piece of sand, and the boat had another group of divers was picking us up at a different reef. And as we were swimming across the sand, I started looking at my compass, there was nothing to fix on natural navigation, but I could see from the formations in the sand that I was broadly swimming in the right direction, because the lines on the bottom will be broadly where the shore is, or in line with the shore. So if you're swimming, in line with the lines in the sand, you're swimming parallel to the shore and not towards it. And using a combination. And then when I knew I was in luck, you can start hearing underwater, because sound travels quite far and fast underwater. You can hear the reef, and it sounds like pouring milk onto your Cocoa Pops. That snap, crackle, and pop. If you hear that, then you can hear the reef is close by. You just can't tell direction because it sounds like it's coming from everywhere. And as you approach the reef, it started getting louder, and we hit the reef spot on, saw the boat. So it does kind of work. But if there was a stronger current or something like, could have been a different story. So it's not a super accurate thing, at least not for somebody with my abilities. There might be much more competent.
And you might have a proper way of just having a specific pace that you're going underwater, so that you have an idea of how far you get in a specific time frame, right? So that you stick to that speed.
So you could count like fin kicks in a period of time, right? But then if you get tired, that changes. And then of course the current is the biggest detractor, right?
And not just the one from front or back, but also from the sides, right? Just pushes you to this somewhere else, right? So it's tough. Yeah.
I remember one of my rescue tasks was to swim out a diver on the surface, like a pretend injured diver. And I had my mask down, and it was shallow. I could see the bottom, and I had a piece of rock with a distinctive piece of coral on it. And I could just remember I was swimming and swimming and swimming. Felt like an hour and I was still just right above this piece of rock. It just didn't move. And there was current.
Yeah.
There was current.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
okay.
So, all right, guys. I think we're drastically over time.
We learned a lot. I mean, I did.
We did.
No.
I think,
About
Ralph, I
diving.
think as an objective qualify as a scuba diver, you'll find it's a lot more relaxed and chilled than snorkeling. Snorkeling,
Yeah,
you have to
sure.
hold your breath.
It's-
I find it quite stressful.
Yes, it is always like you're trying to optimize the how to get down quickly, so you can
Correct,
just
correct.
see a few things, and then you just have to dash up. Yeah, of course.
And I
it's
think
more
then
relaxed.
when we've got all of the Lume plotters qualified as divers, then we
Yeah.
organize a Lume plotters dive trip to Fujairah and, take some
and
underwater
we take
pictures and
all
stuff like
our
that.
dive watches with us.
I know, but like I'm so glad now because I honestly do feel like a poser having dive watches and not being dive certified, right? So now I could say, yeah, I'm not a desk diver. I took my watches diving, and I think that's the coolest thing.
You're a
So
custodian
now I
of
got to
the
make
deep.
sure I use the rest
So
of them.
it sounds so much better when he's saying, I'm a certified diver by PADI, which is the Professional Association of Diving Instructors, right? I think, yeah.
Yeah.
My
So-
instructor, when I qualified, he said to me, Julian, welcome. You are now a fellow custodian of the deep. So I'll say the same to you, Martin. Welcome
thank you.
to the custodians of the deep.
Well, it's such a cool thing. It really is. And the thing is, I have to say, but just between the three of us, we don't tell anyone else.
No,
I have a lot of ear, nose issues, right? So my equalization, and it was allergy season. So I knew for a fact, when you click through the waiver, right? One of the questions is, and this is for Patty, it says like, have you ever had ear or nose problems? And I'm like,
Absolutely not.
no. And they said, because if you do, you have to ask your ear, nose, and throat, your ENT. And my ENT is a buddy of mine. And I knew for a fact if I were to come to him with a piece of paper to sign, he'd say no.
Mhm.
So I'm like, no, I do not. Check. And I still, by the way, my ears still, that was what, 2-3 weeks ago I dove.
It's still a bit
I
sensitive.
still, if I'm doing lifting, right, weightlifting, because you tend to hold your breath, you still hear it a little bit.
which is
It's
a
still,
very bad thing to do every
yeah,
time.
you shouldn't lift weights.
No. Weighting lifts.
Oh.
Lifting weights is a good
No,
idea.
like,
Just not holding your breath.
Holding
Never.
your breath, of
Yeah.
course. But sometimes if you're deadlifting, for instance, you have this, natural instinct to hold the breath. But anyway, yeah. So I talked to my ENT guy afterwards, and I said, I did this without your approval, and he said, yeah, I wouldn't have given you approval. And I'm like, well, now my ears are kind of shot. Can you look at that? But everyone said like it takes time, right?
Yes,
Over time,
It does.
you will get used to the pressure differential and equalization, which I, in my 5 dives, did not get used to.
On your week before you go on a dive trip, I found this helpful for me is that you just start equalizing like that at your desk, in the car, 2-3 times every hour. Your ears just become used to, equalizing the pressure. And there's
Yeah.
always some sort of a pressure differential. Doesn't matter how
So,
much.
but this never worked for me. The holding your nose and blowing out did
doesn't?
not work for
Oh,
me.
wow. How do you
No.
do it then?
Because my what do you call these?
The sinus cavities.
Sinus.
Septum.
Yeah.
It were too narrow and deviated, and especially if you have allergies. So the ENT afterwards says like, if you're gonna go and you're gonna go, you need to take like Otrivin or something and
Okay.
spray it up on there. Make sure those are fully expanded, and then you try to equalize.
Mm-mm.
So of course I did not do that.
If you expand them too much, you have to be very careful with the backwards.
Yeah. Make sure the water
Those
doesn't go up.
gigantic nostrils, they can
Yeah.
they can break you down.
But anywho, all right. On that bombshell, I think it is time for us to go our separate ways. Thank you, Julian, for joining us and talking through
Thank you very much for having
Ralph's
me.
random
And
questions.
for winning the championship of the trump cards. Yes.
Thank you very much. An absolute pleasure as usual talking to you both.
All righty.
Right.
We'll
All
catch
the
you
best.
later.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.